so much for doing this. So, why don't we start with like what is the current status of Resound? How many shows you book in? What's your venue count? All that.
Um, God, let me think. I feel like last year we did like 500 or 600 shows, something like that. I'm guessing it's probably in that range. It's tough not to like discount the local events, but once you start
Yeah.
at local shows we help out with, that's a lot more than just the tours. But we have a few folks that help out with a couple of the clubs we're partners with. So they usually fill that part of the calendar. But yeah, it's probably in that range. I remember pre-pandemic, we were doing like 900 or so. And I
Oh
feel
my
like
God.
getting closer to that again as of now. But that was back when we had a Dallas office pre-pandemic. So, and we don't have that particular slice anymore. So, I'm guessing it's somewhere between, yeah, I would
Six
guess
hundred, 900. Yeah.
so, somewhere in the middle.
I know what you're saying about local shows as well. And how many are you going into rooms you're not owning? How many rooms are you like owning and managing? And like what's the setup of that?
We go almost anywhere except for like Live Nation rooms that they don't allow people into. There's almost nowhere we don't book, but we handle Mohawk. That's one room we own. 900 cap in Austin. We have a newer room called 29th Street Ballroom. It's a partnership with us and the Hotel Vegas folks and a couple other cool bar owners. And that's like a 350 cap. It's a little closer to campus rather than being on the Red River downtown strip. And then we go into a bunch of rooms and we do stuff at Empire Parish, Antone's, ACL Live for larger shows. Radio East, we've been doing a lot of our bigger shows there. They have like a medium-sized stage year round, but they have a amazing setup for larger scale, like 2,500 cap stuff. So we're doing that. I'd say an average of a show a month, something like that.
Awesome.
Just started doing that last December, but we've already had some awesome shows and yeah, but there, Far Out Lounge, kind of you name it, Vegas, all the spots you would think to go to.
Yeah, you doing anything in Dallas as well?
Not a lot. We do some stuff here and there. We'll occasionally do stuff with At the Helm Presents, which is
Mm.
one of the old employees when we had an office up there. And then the Kessler Presents folks, we'll do stuff with them. They
Oh,
own
cool.
Kessler Theater, Longhorn Ballroom, which is awesome that they've revamped. They're opening a larger Longhorn Ballroom's like 2,000. They're about to open a 5,500 cap amphitheater behind it this fall. It's a great space. We'll do stuff with Spoon Presents up there sometimes. Who
Cool.
does? They own Tulips and a few other spots. So yeah, we have a few good promotional partners. And then San Antonio, we still book Paper Tiger. It's 1,000 cap club, and they have a small 200 cap room as well. And yeah, Houston's the head scratcher. We've never
Oh, I was gonna ask, yeah.
post pandemic. It's always been like the hardest nut to crack, so we don't do a ton there.
Why is that?
Could be anything. My theory is it's spread out. I think that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
The population is there. It's the biggest city in Texas by far. It's
Yeah.
the fourth largest city in America. It's the most diverse city in America. Um, it has the potential. I mean, when I was a kid,
It's the
Austin,
most diverse city in America.
yeah, more so than New York, like per
That's
capita.
wild.
Yeah, like every neighborhood is like a different group of people from different countries that have moved and settled there. It's crazy.
But
Uh,
concerts are tricky there, huh?
yeah, it's weird. It wasn't always like that. When I was a kid, Austin wasn't as big a music scene as it is now, and a lot of bands would skip here and we just hit like Dallas, Houston, the big cities, and we used to have to drive to Houston to see shows, and they were always packed. But now, when we will do like a run, Houston will be like the lightest of all of them.
No
I'm a,
kidding. Huh.
there's some genres. I think mainstream music because of population. If it's Beyonce or whatever, Guns N' Roses, doesn't matter. Reunion, huge. It's just going to be big based on number of people. But like your average show goer, uh, I don't think it's quite as much of a cultural thing there.
Yeah.
There aren't as many venues, which it seems like that would mean the venues were packed. But if there's not a lot of venues and there isn't like a big music scene because you can't just go anywhere any night of the week to see music, um, the same way that there might be a lot of restaurants in a place, and it's like that's a foodie city. They have all these amazing restaurants, and it becomes kind of part of the culture. People go out to eat all the time, and people go there to go into these amazing restaurants as part of the reason to go to a place. I feel like for Houston, music just hasn't been that for a long time because there isn't a ton in terms of options. So yeah, it's spread out. I mean,
I think the spread out, when you said the spread out thing, my kind of truth flag went off or whatever. I don't think a lot of people realize, like my son and I like drive down to Houston for various reasons, going to NASA or whatever. And
yeah,
I mean, you're in Houston for 100 miles, you know?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It takes an hour to get somewhere, usually
Yeah.
45 minutes.
More. Yeah. Especially with traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
It's incredibly sprawling. Yeah.
totally. Even Dallas, they have like music district. Even though it's a big city, there's like 10 venues within 10 minutes of each other. Um, yeah, Houston, it's like you can't just go park, go happy hour, see a band, go to the big venue with the tickets you have to see the show, then go afterwards and grab a drink with friends and go catch your friend's local band that plays down the street. It's like that would never happen because you'd have to drive an hour, take an Uber. Plus, if someone was drinking, then you can't drive. It's like it's a real commitment. But there's other like like there's no big national sports team in Austin, right? There's nothing. I mean, soccer, I guess, sort of that's new. Even that's smaller. But as far as like basketball, football, that kind of stuff, where Houston has a ton of that. I feel like there's other cultural things that are people's hobby, going to football games, basketball games. Yeah, they have a huge art district as far as like galleries and museums. There's a lot of other things that people do on the weekends. And music's part of it, but it's not like the go-to. We're in Austin, that's like a normal hobby for not just hipsters that like music, but Brenda from the HR department at the whatever company working for the weekend type cubicle person on Friday is going to go meet their friend at Continental Club for happy hour to watch jazz. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just in the air here. I feel like a lot more people make it part of their lives, and that's not the case everywhere. And I travel a lot, so as do you. I hear that a lot. I'll just be talking to people and a cab driver, an Uber driver, somebody, and it's just they're my age and they've never been to a concert before. They've never seen a
That,
show. That
that
that's just
is,
not.
that's so mysterious that, and it is such a big city. It's interesting. What do you changing subjects a little bit? How is your, because you were saying before the pandemic, you were in Dallas and 900 shows, and now it's, kind of getting around the same level, but you don't have the office in Dallas, and, things have like changed quite a bit, but like, how do you feel about your rendition of the business now, like after the pandemic and before the pandemic? And I guess that could be like lead into another conversation of like, what is the state of the concert industry now compared to 2019? But why don't we start just with yeah, how do you feel about like the size and shape of your business now before compared to what it was before the pandemic? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going in the right direction. You know, at the end of 2019, I think everyone was seeing like a real explosion. It was worldwide. That was the busiest year for live music. Ticket sales were up. Everything was up. Um, And then COVID happened in 2020 and there was this big nosedive and people kind of came back out. I'm rehashing stuff that everyone knows, but yeah, we all saw that big pop of ticket sales post pandemic where everyone was excited. They'd been sitting on their ass for so long they couldn't wait to get back out. They had some people who had disposable income that hadn't gone out who were still working were excited to just buy 100 tickets to 100 shows and put them on their credit card. No one blinked. So you knew that bubble would burst, and it did. So I kind of felt like there was these kind of peaks and valleys after where things were getting back to normal. And I feel like right now it feels like it's normalized and shows are really on the upswing again, at least in my
Cool.
experience. Say that everywhere. And, we saw a lot of shows last year. I think attendance was down a bit. Like numbers were, not quite what people estimated, but the show count was back. And so far this year, and I feel like even last part of last year, I feel like it's been on the rise. So I think things are kind of getting back to where they were, which is really good. For us, I think we're kind of at the right time. 2019 was a really good year. We all went through the same thing we went through for a couple of years, and we've had some growing pains with any like relaunch of a business
Hmm.
in 20 into 2021 with navigating that the post shutdown kind of phase of things. But overall, it's been great. Like we have a really amazing team. We've been able to expand, and we opened a couple of new venues and had some new partnerships, and uh, became partners with Levitation Festival and Austin Psych Fest, our sister festival. So we're able to kind of branch out
Uh,
and
Probably the best venue, best festivals in the country, if you ask me, frankly.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, we
Yeah.
love. So yeah, we've been able to branch out and grow and start working with a lot of new people, and that'll happen pretty quickly. And it hasn't really stopped. So that's been great. No real complaints.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Everyone did know that there was a bubble in like 2022 with everyone buying every single concert ticket imaginable. Do you think that perhaps from an optimistic view, like it was like a look at the future of what could be if the music scene just becomes 10 times more popular than what it is now? Or like, you think we'll ever get back to that level where like concerts are just popping that hard again? Or was it really just this like pent up demand that turned into this artificial experience?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it'll be like a simple wave where everyone equally is crushing it. I mean, certain kinds of venues, certain kinds of experiences. I often think about like what more venues can do the same way like a festival will do, like offer more to a fan where they want to go to that venue because you go there and there's great food and there's drinks and there's clothing, there's things to buy, there's like activities. Like I have seen some venues around the country really go for it, kind of almost bring like a mini festival model into a brick and mortar. I could see things like that increasing attendance. I could see, people have talked about trying to do membership models the way a lot of movie theaters are starting to do that. But that, theaters are in such a different, unique space than live music venues, and live music hasn't been hit as negatively as theaters have. Like, it's funny. I remember reading
This thing, yeah.
after COVID, like I forget who it was. Someone was saying like, "Oh, we're not really competing with other promoters." It was something like a Golden Voice or someone like that. Like, we're competing with Netflix. We're competing with streaming
Right.
and get people out. And it's like a little bit, but I haven't seen. I'm sure that happens occasionally. I don't go out sometimes because there's something I want to watch at home with my wife. Uh, but so far, ticket sales seem to be strong. I think for watching a movie in a theater versus watching it at home, that is, of course, shifted, and we're seeing more and more theaters close. I haven't really seen that shift with live music yet. I'm sure it's happening a little, but you can't recreate a live show experience. And I think a lot of people tried and failed when they were doing stay at home shows during COVID out of desperation and to support artists. I think people were clicking on and paying to watch a band play in a room on their computer.
Yeah.
That was not destined to last. And I don't know. I think some people hoped it would, and it wasn't realistic, and it didn't. But I haven't seen that or any version of that replace people going to shows. People are still going to shows. People are buying tickets like crazy. Like I have yet to see a major drop off at this point. At least to the degree that people have kind of warned. I'm sure there's something there, but you know,
Do you
yeah.
think, how do you think, one of the things that I'm hearing in the industry right now is there's it's hard to draw straight lines from these like big macroeconomic factors, but like the Taylor Swift mega shows are emptying the pockets of like concert goers, and in town we had Moody Center open, which I guess they had the Frank Warren Center before, but it's not Taylor Swift's not in town, but like the Moody Center has like a ton of, I think they did some over 100 concerts, which at an arena is like pretty wild. Do
Crazy.
you think that's just contributing to a vibrant live music scene? Like, do you think
Yep.
there is some, does the
Uh,
top of the market just eat up some of the budget, or like, what's your
I,
perception of
don't-
all these things?
I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, I'd have to see cold hard data to make a decision on pros and cons of Moody Center. For the most part, it's a good thing. Like you said, we already had the Irwin Center. They tore that down and built a different venue next door. It's the same capacity, so it didn't change anything. It essentially replaced a venue with a better venue in terms of like the way it's run. You go in, it's easy to get drinks. There's food there. I mean, every door you can scan in. You don't have to wait in line at one place. It's really well run. It's well set up. They're bringing a ton of stuff to town that used to skip the market. Harry Styles doing 5 nights. Like there's people doing multiple night runs there that want to play that venue. So I think they've done a really good job. And I think for the most part, it's getting more people to go out more often than not. And maybe those folks who might enjoy the experience and want to go see stuff at a theater and club level in that like 2000 and below world that we all work in. Um,
Right.
but mostly I think it's good. I mean, you need more spaces like that for bigger artists and for people who will never go out to another cool show that only want to go see big stuff once a year. You need more options. I worry a little about for the folks in between who go to
Mm,
a lot of shows, who Live Nation and AG, like the pricing model of the amphitheater and the stadiums is so driven by dynamic pricing that it's really putting a hurting on people and paying $180, $280 for a ticket. It's unreasonable to ask that because it does trickle down, or it doesn't trickle down, I should say. Like
right. Right.
that when that money doesn't is taken out of the pocket of the show goer who would have gone to more shows, but they just spent, if it used to be 20, $30 to see a show and you would have seen 10 of those shows, but you spent that same amount on one ticket for one show, unless you're just independently wealthy and you're crushing it and you can just
Right.
buy
Yeah.
$200 tickets and $20, $30 tickets every night of the week. Folks have to make choices, and even people with a decent budget are still going to be like, God damn, I just spent $500 between food, drinks, parking, and me and plus one going to see someone. Like, I don't think I'm going out next week or the week after. I think I'll stay at home. It definitely affects things, and that's where I'm worried about.
Mm,
There's that model that I think people have argued, the Live Nations of the world and the ticket masters anyway, that hey, the market bears this. Whatever the market bears, we should be charging. Like charge more because people will pay more, and because it's a necessary thing to do for the artist, for the business. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our board, to our shareholders. That's capitalism. You just if someone will pay for it, you should charge it. Like I do not believe that. I think that's crazy.
yeah. Yeah.
If you were if you were you're essentially saying like there are wealthy people or people who don't have a lot of money but willing to spend a huge portion of their money on one thing. um so those people should be allowed to see live music, and then everyone else who doesn't have a ton of money shouldn't be allowed to see music, is what you're essentially saying. Like, well, they can't afford it. It's like if all cars were made by Tesla and they all cost 90 grand, or whoever.
Yeah.
The
Right. 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 Right.
Ferrari only made
Yeah,
cars.
you want some
Oh,
diversity of,
yeah, people are
offerings.
buying our Ferraris. Like, well, yeah, some people, but a lot of other
Yeah.
people going, you know. So I don't know. It's just a weird way to look at things. Like it's available. Some people will pay for it. It's like, yeah, but you could have sold more. There are more people who can't afford that who will pay to see an artist at $50 than there are um the people who will pay at a much higher scale. And eventually it's gonna keep, you know, it's going to become kind of a Boulder situation where this avalanche starts and less people can afford to go to other shows in the middle because they've overspent at the top. And seeing that holy shit moment at the top is more exciting because club artists come through once a year, but this might be your only chance to see Charlie XCX or Kendrick Lamar or your last chance to see Roger Waters before he stops touring. Like there's all these big moments, and those are gonna, those are at the bigger venues and they're going to warrant a higher ticket price. But it's gotten so unsustainable in terms of of where it's gone. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah. How do you suppose it all shakes out?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like over time, folks have to charge less just by default. And I think the argument is probably that the free market will work itself out. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
that you're like,
Yeah.
well, at some point you won't be able to charge that much, so you'll have to stop. Um, but like at what I don't know, it's like a bull in a china shop situation where
Yeah.
like, well, we're just going to keep doing it till people are out of money and venues have closed and smaller bands were unable to tour and make any money and we're unable to grow, and that's it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But we made as much money as we could for this short amount of time and cashed in, and you know, who cares what happens the next year and the year after that? Like it's really just kind of destroying the ecosystem that grows artists up into those spaces. If you take so much, revenue out of the pool of money that would go up to these artists. So yeah, I don't know. That's my worry. But on the flip side, it could also do the opposite, bringing more people out to see live music who don't normally go to see shows,
Yeah.
see big artists and are like, oh, wow, this is cool. I mean, the first show you saw probably wasn't some DIY show in a backyard. It was like I think my first concert was Motley Crue at the Irwin Center when I was in third grade. And, after going to a bunch of those big shows in the 80s when I was a little kid, I thought like,
That was your first show, huh? The Motley Crue at the Irwin Center?
yeah, yeah. Saw a lot of bands like that at that venue in the 80s when I was little.
Holy shit, that would have been a fun thing to drop into Portal, Time Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iron Maiden, Poison, all that stuff.
Oh my
Uh,
God. What year was that?
oh God. I was probably like 8 or 9, so like late 80s, 88, 89.
Okay. Oh wow.
Maybe younger than that.
Yeah.
But
Wow. What an era. What was Austin like back then?
small.
Really?
But yeah, little college town. I think it was like 500,000 people or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
man, I'm like tempted to. That's a good jumping point. Gosh, there's so much to talk about, but I think one of the coolest parts of your story is just like you've landed 600 shows is really cool, but I hope I'm not flattering you too much here, but like the brand that you have and like the vibe around the shows that you put on is really it's really freaking cool, and like it's a quite the scene that you've developed. And I do think that what you've built in Austin is something that like people, I don't know if envy is the right word, but it's something people look at and they say like it's impressive and it's like a unique group, but like at the same time, like I know a little bit about your story just from conversations over the years. Like you come up in Austin that has changed quite a bit.
mhm.
So it's like a juicy thing to like get at once, but I'm sitting here kind of thinking about, all right, you're going to your first Motley Crue show at the Irwin Center in the 80s in Austin. Austin has changed dramatically. I think you started booking shows at Emos when you were like 17. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. No, yes. Yeah. Well, I started booking shows in like when I was a kid for sure, like 14 or 15. Emos, I'm trying to think the first time I did a show there, probably in that range. Yeah. Like maybe towards the end of high school, maybe 18, something like that. But I started working there.
Yeah,
Like
let's hear the story. Let's get in the story. Yeah, tell it. Yeah.
uh saw a lot of big concerts in elementary school. By middle school, I was pretty into like punk and underground music, and alternative-y stuff before it was like called alternative in the media, I guess, just sort of like college rock, they called it. So this would be like 90, maybe something like that. So yeah, middle school, I feel like I started finding out about that kind of music. And it was just a real culture shock. Like I went and saw Fugazi and Dead Milkman and all these bands at clubs. There's like 1,000 people and the bands are selling merch. You can talk to them. It was so different than seeing like Metallica at the Irwin Center or whatever as a kid. And yeah, I think it was just at that point there was a scene and I fell into this scene of like underground music and other kids my age and older folks that were into cool stuff. And I think it was exciting probably at a young age to be like, oh, you can just go see bands all the time. There's clubs everywhere. It isn't just once a year. So that I guess that's back to when we were talking about the Moody Center. That's where I think there's a real positive of these big
Yeah.
venues that are bringing people out and they're exposing people to. It's a gateway to other stuff. As long as they don't bankrupt people who are trying to get to come back. But yeah, so I started getting into music at a young age, started playing music at a young age. In high school, I played in bands. I got more involved in the music scene as the years went on. So in the 90s, yeah, I'm in high school. I start putting on shows as a hobby, really just to so my band and my friends' bands had somewhere to play because no clubs were going to book a bunch of high school kids. There weren't a ton of all ages clubs in Austin then either, so there weren't a lot of options. So it was a lot of like the FW halls, recreation centers, like anything we could find that would let us rent it out, and then we grab a practice PA from someone's basement and set it up, and yeah, have someone work the door and charge $2 or $3 and divide that after we paid the rental to the place. divide the money with the bands, or give it all to the touring band if there was a touring band. Um, and yeah, it was just a hobby. I never thought there was a way to make money. I didn't understand that there was a music business in terms of live shows. I think it was just the thing you did. I did a record label. I put out records for my band and my friends' bands. A couple of them went on to get re-released on bigger labels and got signed to bigger labels. And but again, it was just like it was just something you did. It was just a hobby. But one I was very passionate about. So yeah, that was all through high school. So 96, I graduated, did community college for a second to transfer over to UT. And then, yeah, I was just more interested and focused on music and putting on shows and doing that. And so I stopped going to school and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But around that time, a club I had worked at, Emos, which used to be downtown, I had worked the door and security there and stage managed. I had left, and then I had heard they had fired the guy who used to be the booker there. He had a super bad drug problem. He had been stealing money from the safe to buy speed and crack, and
Sounds like
so
typical music venue problems in the
yeah,
90s.
especially back then and back where the club was located. And, um, I think he's since got his shit together, but at the time they were like, we got to get rid of this guy. And when I used to work there security, I would do shows occasionally as a hobby. Like if there was an empty night, I'd grab it on the calendar and put together a show. And so it just so happened that day, a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you should hire Graham. He used to do this as a hobby. He might come back." And so someone hit me up that day, and I went over there. I was like, "So you'll pay me to do my hobby? I don't have to break up fights. I don't have to clean toilets. Like, all right, this sounds all right. I think I would do this if I can get paid the same I got before to book the shows." Um, but it was like a crash course. Like no one showed me anything. This woman, Margaret, who used to book before the person who was getting let go, they asked her to come in and show me how to do things. She already had another job. And she was like, here's a calendar, like a paper calendar. Here's a calendar. Here's some whiteout.
They didn't have Prism back then.
Oh, way before Prism. This Prism. Let me explain what Prism came from. It was an actual paper calendar, pencil, pen, whiteout. And a phone with two lines. We didn't even have the internet. I mean, it existed, but no one booked shows on it. Uh, this was like, yeah, late 90s. And they're like, answer the phone. Well, when you get here in the morning, check all the messages from the voicemail, write down whoever called with their phone number to call them back, if it's an agent or whatever, or if it's a local band. And then all day as it rings, take calls. If the other line starts ringing, put them on hold and go to the other line.
Oh my God.
And then tell you'll call them back and go back to your call, finish it, and then call back that call. So all day it was just answering phones and calling people back. And doesn't matter who, hey, Queens of the Stone Age needs this date. Is your date open? I put it on the calendar, write it in pencil. We're going to hold it. That was a hold, pencil. Well, across 3 days if it was multiple dates. Second hold, same thing. And then, you know, to make an offer, I would write out, and our offers were insane. Like this club had no promoter profit. It was literally 100% of the door after club costs, which were nothing. It was like sound person and a door person. Uh, there were no advance tickets back then. It was cash at the door. Back then it was like $2 or $3 for over 21 and $5 or $6 for under 21. We raised it up a few years later to 5 and 8, I think. And then once Emo sold the club, we started doing actual advance tickets. But up until then, it was cash only at the door.
Amazing.
No tax taken out, no ASCAP, BMI, anything like that. No licensing, no insurance, no promoter profit. It was just band gets the door after the sound person and door and security are paid. So, if it was a small stage show, we'd put after $200. Or if it was a big stage show, after $800, 100%. The band just got
Oh
everything.
my God.
Um,
Love it.
and then we would fax that.
That sounds. Oh, you fax it. Wow.
Yeah, there was a fax machine hooked up to the same phone line, one of those two phone lines, and I would fax it to William Morris or whoever, and then I would get it back like confirmed with like an actual contract that I was. And hospitality, all we did was like $5 a head food buyout and 24 drink tickets, and then we would X off the entire rider. No one got anything. You got little food buyout and some free drinks and all the bottled water you wanted. It was
Man, I
like,
wonder if like 30 years in the future, you're going to be on a podcast and it's like something, it's like, oh, we back 20 years ago, we had this thing called Prism and you put
yeah,
holds on a calendar
it
and
was
like,
so archaic. You taped it in by hand. There was no AI feature. There's nothing, like,
you couldn't
yeah,
just talk to ChatGPT and book your venue. Yeah.
exactly. This was back before, when promoters and agents booked shows back in 2026. This is before the robots booked
Well,
the shows.
promoter was like a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's just a tool that comes up with an algorithm and a rough amount of people based on attendance from other shows, and then that's how the show is booked. Um, yeah,
You rolled with
really
that.
weird.
Yeah.
That's how we book shows. It was super archaic. Oh, the whiteout though. So you confirmed a show pen over the pencil on the calendar. That's when the owner would come look and everything in pen was confirmed, and he would make an ad that would send to the Austin Chronicle. That was the ad that had the show. I even think we had a website then. In fact, I know we didn't because I remember hiring
Amazing.
to build a website a couple of years later. So the only way to find out about the show was to get the Austin Chronicle, open it, and see who was playing. And he would just type in and send them a little thing based on what was written in ink. If a show was canceled, we would put whiteout over it, dry it, blow on it, and then that was a cleared date on a calendar. And
Oh
then
my.
the pencil comes back out. Um,
You must
and
have
then
been going through whiteout like crazy.
oh yeah, a lot of canceled shows. But we just had a book that we wrote the details in, and then that would be where the bar ring would get written, how many people showed up, cash, and then that's what whoever was closing that night wrote all the details in. It was so early. And honestly, like I'd say that's how everything was. And at one point everything was like that. I'm gonna guess we were probably a few years behind some other places. Because it was pretty punk. Like the venue
Yeah.
was just very DIY. And by that I mean poorly. Uh, and then later, I remember the agent. I still know her. She still books some bands here and there, not a lot, but she was a pretty big agent back in the day. I remember her calling me once and being like, "Hey, do you use email? Do you have an email address?" And I
What year was this?
probably like 2001, 2002, something like that. Because started working there in like, see, I got married in 99. I feel like 97, 98, came back in 99. So it was a couple of years into booking. It was like I'd been booking for at least a few years. I was there like almost a decade, like 9 years. And I was like, I have one that I set up in high school, like for like to email someone about some school thing a few years ago, but I never use it. And she was like, I'm starting to book everything. It's so easy. It's so much easier booking over email. You don't have to wait for calls. You don't have to call people back. You can reply in the middle of the night. She's like, I think you should use your email. I'll send you an email. Um, and
That's amazing.
yeah, literally my email was D's nuts XXX at
Is
Hotmail.
that right?
Yeah, I used that for years. Didn't matter
Jeez,
who it was. Yeah, I'd be booking usually famous people like, oh yeah, you can get me at D's nuts XXX.
no. Are you serious?
And then
Do
I
you
would
still
send
have
you,
the email address?
I a couple of years ago I found the login. It still exists. It's all filled with spam and like cheap, like Turkish porn sites or something at this point. Like it's nothing but spam. But I was able to like look up a bunch of old contract stuff and the first fun year, like original lineup before we confirmed it. I was like, oh my God, this is like
Can I
crazy.
email you at D's nuts XXX? Can we,
Yeah, I won't
is this,
see it, but I will be able to somehow reset it to find the password if I ever needed to. Maybe. I don't know.
is that an Earthlink or AOL or what?
Hotmail.
Oh, Hotmail. There we go. Okay.
Hotmail was next level. I was an
Dude,
AOL.
this is amazing. I did not think that you like have gone from, literally whiting out holds on calendar to like eventually using, Prism and then like a whole lot of stuff in between. Like it'll be cool to like paint the mosaic between the things. But
Yeah, I was like, I started at like the tail end of that's how people book shows, right? Like when people were booking fucking Cab Calloway and Louis Armstrong and Etta James and or Etta Fitzgerald, whatever. Like in the 20s or 30s, like they were doing it the same way, answering a phone, writing it down on a paper calendar. Like nothing was different from the beginning of touring circuits of musicians and clubs to the internet. Essentially, like nothing was different other than the fax machine. Uh, that was the only thing I think different. I
Oh
answered
my
the
gosh.
I wrote it down. I talked a deal with him over the phone. We agreed to something. A contract was signed. It was mailed when the Beatles were touring or whoever. Like
Yep.
that's the only difference was to be like nothing had changed. So I was there at like the tail end of that in like the late 90s. Then when it was like, well, there's a digital version. I remember when we started doing contracts digitally. Like even once you were booking over email, we were still getting mailed contracts for 5 years. I mean, it was into transmission and fun for quite a while into like the late aughts and early teens. We were, it still hadn't switched to completely digital signatures and everything, and uploading contracts, uploading everything as you're very familiar with.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it was still old school, half of it, the paper part, which isn't surprising. Like when it comes to technology, like the legal part, you must write this in ink and sign this, that world's still like a bit more protective over how to do it and not get in trouble. And we do we help UT out with some series. And anytime we do an event with UT, you have to sign like an ink version of a signature on paper. You can't e-sign it. It has to be signed in ink. It can then be scanned and sent, which is weird because it becomes digital. But there's some institutions that still have like a very specific way of doing it for legal reasons. But anyway, yeah, long story short, that's what I did forever. It wasn't until I started booking with an email in the mid aughts, I would say, early mid aughts. And I left emos around that time and started Fun Fest, um, which the first year was us and Alamo Draft House, the movie theater chain.
Hmm.
We did it together the first year. I was still at emos then. Then the next year I left, it started what was called Transmission at the time.
What,
Um,
what year did you start transmission?
2007, summer of 2007. And so that
Cool.
was technically the second Fun Fest.
Wow.
And yeah, we just grew up from there. We did that up until, I mean, essentially pandemic. Technically 2016 is when Fun went away and we started Margin Walker, which was really just the same staff, same team. We just kind of broke off of Transmission went away. We started Margin Walker. The fest sadly went away with that. It was kind of a weird partnership where the intellectual property kind of disappeared. And then we were doing it as Margin Walker. We did another festival called Sound on Sound for a couple of years. And then, yeah,
Can
after,
we pause on there for a second? I went to Fun Fest, by the way.
for sure.
Great fest, incredible. There was like wrestling and skateboarding and very, very unique. All sort of everyone from Wu-Tang Clan to the Growlers to, I mean, I don't know. And it was right in downtown Austin.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously you're going to do this anyway, but feel free to share, not share. Like, what's the nutshell of what happened with Fun Fest? You miss it at all? You want to bring it back, or like, yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think it was? What was its unwinding? Yeah.
it's complicated. It was started very much on accident. I still worked at Emos. We were booked one weekend. I had a bunch of bands routing through that needed a show. I hit Amy Corbin at C3, who booked Stubbs at the time. They used to close like from December through almost to South by, like for the winter. They weren't available. I wasn't even trying to book the show. I was just trying to find somewhere for these bands to play. La Zona Rosa had Ziggy Marley, I remember. I remember the shows at Emos. I had like, I think it was Cannibal Corpse one night and then Bouncing Souls another night. So a punk show and a metal show. And there were just a bunch of bands that needed the same weekend. I had done an event with Alamo Draft House at this park called Waterloo Park. That's now Waterloo Amphitheater. It's the Moody Amphitheater. But at the time, it was just like a kind of a fallen down park that you could rent out from the city. I'd done a couple of events there with Alamo Draft House that were these like film and DJ events. And so I just hit them up and we're like, hey, remember that series we did? Like, if we want to do something like that again, I have a ton of bands in town and on December 1st, and that all need a show. I think it would do well. We could do like a mini fest. So we went in and did it and it did okay. It was small. Weather wasn't great. but still was 3,000 to 4,000 people on a thing we threw together. So the next year is when I left Emos and started Transmission, and around the same time, Alamo Drafthouse had started Fantastic Fest, which was their film fest. It was kind of their version of Fun 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 in the theater world. So it was like horror, sci-fi, stuff like
Mm.
that. It's a big thing, but they were busy with that. So I was like, I'm going to keep doing it without y'all if you're cool with it. And I had started my own company with a few partners at the time. So it made sense to keep growing it. And yeah, it quickly became like a cool, I always looked at it like an alternative to like festival for people who don't necessarily like festivals. Like,
Yeah.
like it's smaller, it's a little bit more niche. I wanted it to mirror the type of stuff we have been booking as a company, and as a brand. So cool progressive stuff. It's DJs, hip hop, punk, indie, like comedians. We added a comedy stage with comedy and spoken word. We eventually, added like BMX and skate stuff and added ramps and like just kind of like counterculture stuff to a degree. And there were still big acts on it. We had
Hmm.
Snoop Dogg. I mean, it wasn't like it was only the most underground stuff, but it was. I kind of looked at it like there's like a wide array of like what's cool and interesting and unique. Um,
Then there's some crazy moment where like some band was playing a song and like a meteor went off.
oh
Is this
yeah,
ring?
yeah.
What was
Yeah,
that
I think
again?
like one of the last years, maybe the second to last year. Yeah, it was a well because we had bands at multiple stages. A few bands were playing, but I remember Modest Mouse was playing. And yeah, there was a shooting star. Yeah,
I think it was during a song that was like referencing a shooting star too.
yeah, it
It
was
was like a
like called
magical
like
moment.
Dark Spot in the Universe or something like that. And then this like
Yeah.
went down.
I was on a rooftop just like coincidentally, and I saw
Yeah,
that meteoroid. Yeah. So
funny.
anyway,
Yeah, people were tripping out. I did not have anything to do with the meteorite.
you didn't
Uh,
plan that? Are you
I
serious?
wish I could say I booked it, but um,
I
yeah,
like it's like when nature cooperates. It
yeah,
happens from time to time, you know?
yeah. Depending on who you were watching, because King Diamond, this like satanic metal band, was playing on another stage. People, people were like, "Oh, Lucifer, Morning Star!" Like, oh, there were other section in his video. They were like, "How funny that like Fallen Angel." I don't know. They were all these
Oh
like
my God,
metalheads that had
hilarious.
a different funny, jokey interpretation of it than all the indie rock kids watching Modest Mouse had. And I'm sure there was like DJ stuff on the other stage that were tripping out when they saw it too. But
Yeah, it
yeah,
was a scene, man. It was crazy. Yeah, very
yeah, it was
cool.
a really unique. I mean, I was very proud of it. It was, we had so many insane moments. We had a cannon that shot tacos into the crowd.
That's right.
We had like insane announce videos and really like it was very funny and quirky. We had Henry Rollins once married a couple from stage and performed a ceremony.
Oh my God.
There were just always things like that. Like we would spend time and money to like do funny things that set it apart from other festivals. And the lineups are insane. When I look back at it, I'm just like, God, the amount of bands that played at like one, SZA, Charlie XCX, all these acts like that are now
Yeah.
stadium headliners.
Wow.
From across the board, and artists who were like hot shit that now are like have dropped way off. Like it kind of comes and goes, um, but it was a real tastemaker festival, and it was really important to us that it was like this is like where you discover the best bands, and you can also see the bands at the top of their game within that world. And unfortunately, after almost a decade of doing it, we had started a new partnership with a company. It was like an investor company that it didn't work out. Our company Transmission, and we just didn't see eye to eye. I think they were like real estate developers that also had a venue within one of their within their building. ACL Live, the
Yeah.
W,
Yeah.
they own the W and they own the venue. We did a lot of shows there, so it made sense that we would partner on this. And um, but they're also a publicly traded company, so they're audited every 3 months. What everyone worries about an audit, they have to do that every 3 months. So it's just the accounting that comes with a publicly traded company is night and day from the accounting and paperwork that comes with a
Yeah.
DIY. And it was great. Like the conversations we were getting were just, it would be like someone from an accounting department would have to look over everything and be like, hey, this spreadsheet says the bananas on the rider for the Melvins were $2.14. Okay. But the receipt says $2.10. Oh, well, someone mistyped four instead of zero. We'll change. You can't. It's been flagged. We have to do an entire audit of all the other ticketed shows now and revamp it from ground. I'm like, it's going to take all day. Well, yeah, but this is how we do things. uh,
Oh my.
and
Match
that
made in heaven.
and that made me like, in ACL Live, the venue, Moody Theater, was doing 80 shows a year. We were doing 80 shows a month. So
Right.
we were like, you guys are used to doing this for 80 shows and having like a long day about it. We, we can't, can you imagine doing this times 10? Like, and they were like, oh, they hated it. We hated it. And for them, in their defense, it was like a publicly traded company. The government looks for those mistakes
For
because
sure.
if you see like someone who handled the money, who's a contract person over here, there's 4 cents missing. What if that person takes 4 cents off every transaction and moves it to the Cayman Islands?
Office Space.
Yeah, it's just like that. So that
Or
does
is that the
happen.
movie? Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Office Space. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah. When where they try and move like a percentage and they
It's
accidentally.
like, holy shit, it's
Yeah.
$1 million in the first day. Yeah.
We anyway, that's those type of companies do exist who like scam people. So they're ordering millions of dollars worth of concrete to build towers. This company that happens to be our partner that are like, we can't have our books thrown off by these shows you're doing. And we're like, we can't keep going through this much paperwork. We're never going to get anything done. Uh, so eventually we're like, this isn't working. So we parted ways, but unfortunately that parting of ways meant we lost the name from Fun too.
Uh,
And I offered to buy it, but he didn't want to. I think he thought it was worth more than it was. And um, I don't know whatever happened. I mean, I've heard rumors. I think I heard Live Nation owns it, bought it at some point. Not to do fun, but to sort of catch and kill the dates.
oh,
Because
wow.
the dates that were tied with the event were one of only a handful of dates at that park that the city
Yeah,
would.
that Auditorium Shores. Yeah, that's
Yeah, we
right.
were
I
kind
remember
of
this.
yeah, we were sort of grandfathered in, and they wanted to do like an EDM event. And so they did that, but it failed after a couple of years. They stopped doing it. Uh,
Oh, I remember this. Yeah,
yeah,
Somatic or some. I don't remember. What was
I don't
it?
recall, but it's the one you're thinking of. It was in October, like a month before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a month after ACL, I should say. But um, I think honestly, like I had heard AEG had been sniffing around about doing a festival here, like other folks had as well. And for them, and they've been pretty public about it, Live Nation had, they were like, well, we have ACL, we don't want another competitor like an AEG doing like a Golden Voice a month after us. So we're going to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah.
last I heard that somehow the IP was tied to those dates and that is in some digital lockbox somewhere. Um, so yeah, I can't just launch it again because I don't own the assets. I think I own the trademark, but technically I don't really own it. It just is in my name, but isn't usable.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and you and I had met around that time. I was doing Solstice Fest, and we like
yeah.
collaborated on a fun fest event at a roller skating rink, which was a
Oh yeah,
blast.
yeah. The what was that its center called?
The Austin roller rink. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was that the Austin roller rink? Okay. Oh yeah, there's one in North Austin. Was that the one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's another roller rink too, and I know what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking about.
There's an
Yeah.
East Side one that has a theater, and we also helped with an event.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
that's right by my son's house, my
Yeah.
house. My son and I go there. The Millennium.
Millennium, yeah, youth complex. Yeah. I've done
Yeah.
some too. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and I mean at the time too. I mean, when we rented I did Solstice Festival for 4 years, and when we were renting a park, like man, do they put you through the grinder? Like it is wild.
Yeah, you remember that. God,
Oh
it was
yeah,
that was half the battle and honestly like the least fun part of it, like the plain politics. Like we ended up hiring a manager at Transmission for a while who was our who used to work at the city because it was like this guy's good
yeah, I
with city.
remember. Yeah, yeah.
Bring him in because he can help with that communication. Because every year we had to go sit
Yeah,
in
he's
front of a
great.
panel of, you know, neighborhood association people that just yelled at us about how much they hated the festival. And we'd nod, and then we'd eventually get the dates. But it was you never knew every year if you were going to get your date. Even though you've been doing it for years and 20,000 people love it, five angry rich people can like
Oh
threaten
my god.
a council person's seat. So It was always that part I did not miss.
Same.
And the nail biting of like weather and all that kind of stuff I don't miss either, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah. The first year of Solstice Festival, we were like, by the way, I love Austin Parks. This is not a, whatever.
yeah,
Let's
go
hate
ahead.
on Austin Parks. They got a hard job. There's a lot of reasons why they got the red tape they do, but we got our permits pulled 12 days before the first Solstice Festival, and I was like, what? Like, are you
Remember
kidding me?
y'all like moving it to a club once. Yeah, like to a
Well,
venue.
so we got the permits the day before the event, and we and
Yeah.
we and we got access to the park, and it was great. But we got rained out by 6 o'clock. So at six
Right.
o'clock, we moved it to a club. Yeah,
That's the other thing. Yeah. Fighting with the
man, I
city.
forgot that. You got better memory than me. Yeah, I guess I blocked it out.
Yeah. I mean, fighting with the city to get something that might get rained out was such a, right. I mean, like I was on a panel in Sweden at a festival. Uh, and I was on this panel with other festival promoters and a couple of city people whose job it was to make sure festivals and the music community got what they needed from the city.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
my God.
oh, we're here just to, what we do is like we work with them, we work with the neighborhood, we make sure there's no traffic issues, we make sure the festival gets its funding. I'm like, this is fucking insane. I was like, everything you're describing I have nothing to say except I wish I lived here. Like, it's just the city basically tries to do everything to stop you from doing it.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
and that's basically half the year is just spent fighting to do a thing that may lose money. For like, why are you even doing it? It was very frustrating. That people want to see that everyone embraces, except for a couple of people who are very outside of it. So I don't miss that part of it. I do miss that event that was really cool. And when we broke off from that partnership, we did start another festival that also got rained out.
I was there. I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. You there during the Sunday rain day.
Yep. Yep.
So that was tough.
Incredible fun, by the way.
Yeah,
The
it
the
was
dragon
beautiful.
stage. It was at the Sherwood Forest Fair
Yeah, it was at a
grounds.
Renaissance Fair. We rented out and had a whole themed out thing with castles and jousting arena and bands playing in the middle of a Renaissance Fair. It was very
It was
funny.
so fun, so fun.
We had camping on site. It was cool.
I think that was the most unique like rock festival I've ever been to, like by far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great idea. The rain the last day crushed us, and then the next year, yeah, it didn't get there, so we ended up stopping doing that, and then COVID was not long. It was around a couple of years later. We were doing great separately from the festival world. That one event, it was just one event. We do tons, so it was
Do
just
you think it was? That's right, you were going for year two at Sound on Sound. I remember, and
yeah,
you made the tough decision to pull it down. If you don't mind me bringing that
yeah.
up, yeah, yeah, yeah. What was your thought process there? Yeah.
Well, that sucked. It was like, so the first year we did it like we had done Fun 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 for a decade, and um, that same year there was Fire Festival, which everyone knows about now.
Oh my God. Yeah.
There was another one called Pemberton in Canada or somewhere. There were
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
a bunch of mega fests all around. Everyone hears about Fire, but there were like 10 that year. All canceled. No bands got paid. No sound people got paid. Everyone got fucked by these like either straight up crooks or just people who gambled and lost. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
small independent promoter or small compared to, the Live Nations of the world. Um, agents I had dealt with for 20 years were just like, we're friends. It's nothing personal, but our new thing at our company, our new CEO, whatever, we have to do like big deposits in advance, or we have to get paid up front before, like all these like new advances for an indie fest. You put your tickets on sale, you get your sponsorships in, you start doing marketing, you pay everybody, you have your bar sales, everyone gets paid. Even years of never doing anything wrong, um, new mandate after they've all gotten burned by multiple festivals around the world is we can't keep rolling the dice. There's too many festivals. And I agreed. Like I knew the bubble would burst there as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone went to Coachella and we're like, I'm going to do a Coachella in Sioux City. Like everyone's trying to do a festival everywhere because they saw it and they hope they can pull it off.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I went to Coachella in 2012, and I think it was a big part of me like deciding
yeah,
to go this
the
crazy route.
same. But
Yeah.
you did the right thing. You started small.
Yeah.
Everyone else says, I'm going to get some investors and I'm going to do I think if we can pull in 100,000 tickets, like whatever math they come up with, realistic. They don't start small. They try and go big and they all go bankrupt, or they get halfway there. It's exciting. They investors write checks the second year to pay their losses, and they keep doing that until the debt gets so big that it's like a shell game, and they've borrowed and borrowed.
Mm,
I've seen that happen 1,000 times. Um, and we just were caught in the middle of it where everyone's like, it wasn't just agents, it was like fencing companies, the generator companies, the sound, the lights, the stage. Everyone's like, we have to start getting upfront payments because it's not you, it's these 10 other events that have all burned us. And now we're not allowed to do these events unless we can figure out how to protect it because they're so risky. So we were now like, God, we're not Live Nation. We don't have hundreds of millions of dollars. We can just advance.
yeah.
We have to now get investors who could be the bank that we confront and then reimburse once the festival happens. And that kind of took us out the second year because we were already behind from a rained out day. And second year was like a killer lineup. Yeah. Ziggy Pop. It was like a killer bill. And yeah, it just kind of fell apart investor wise. We had an investor that pulled out last minute. And we were like, well, we have like a tough decision. It was like 5 or 6 weeks out. We had already announced and gone on sale, but none of the venues in town that we worked with were booked yet. Most of them were
Yeah.
empty. We had sucked all the bands out of the market for our festival. And we were like, well, we can roll the dice and go back to some other investors and see if we can get folks to fund it so we can get everyone their deposits. And we have a few weeks to do that. Or right now, we have a ton of venues in town, we can cancel, refund everyone their tickets, customers get their money back, and then all the bands that have routed through will plug into all the venues, put tickets on sale, get them paid so no one loses a show. Um, so it's embarrassing, and we still lose a lot of money doing that, and we did. Uh, or we roll the dice, but a lot of people like to roll the dice, but I wasn't willing to like see if we could get capital. I knew that we had to do the right thing, and that was
Yeah.
reschedule everyone, get the artist paid, get the fans back their money, and just say this fucking sucks. But yeah, we at least it was like a full cancellation. It was almost like a reorganization of the event to get everyone sorted. So that's what we ended up doing. It was painful. We took on a lot of debt, but we were able to pay it off and get everyone squared away. Would we have landed us, an investor in the next few weeks to get it paid for? Maybe, but that's a big dice roll. Had we failed, we would have burned all the agents, burned all the bands, not had anywhere for them to play, and just been like, sorry, shit out of luck. We're filing for bankruptcy. No one's getting,
Yeah.
or no customers might get their money back. Like we were just like, yeah, we can't. We do 900 shows a year at that time. We weren't willing to burn our year-round business for the hope of making a festival work. Even though it was a really cool event, and I do think that thing would have grown. But you know what? Like, even though I do believe that event was pretty cool and unique, as you saw, and I think that would have become a kind of a hot ticket item over time. Um, a couple of years later, COVID would have happened anyway, and like wiped
Right.
everything out. So it's almost like we got out early before it like completely was destroyed. So yeah,
Yeah. No, no, no. And the chaos of a festival is like, when because we all have gone to Coachella when it works, it's like the coolest thing ever. But the unbelievable stress of putting it on is it's just insane. Like I remember the morning before solstice, or the morning of solstice, I'd get there at like 3 and like see the stages come up and the fencing, and then like there would always be a moment where 30 people at once wanted my attention, and it
yeah,
was like the most stressful thing ever, but it was like weirdly intoxicating and like felt good too,
yeah, yeah.
just to
You
like
feel accomplished. Yeah, you feel like
this feeling, right?
feeling of like building something and achieving something, and like this is working, it's coming together. But yeah, there is that time when you have to hide a little bit, like where everyone's trying to figure something out. Texting, there's a radio, there's a call in your ear, and someone's talking to you, and you're like, oh my God. We had a pretty amazing team by the end of it. So it was delegated well. Our
That's
production
good.
team,
Yeah.
our stat teams, our festival team, our sponsor team, like, and they had little teams under them. It was running really well by the end of it. But then like I said, that rained out day of that second festival was like we had never dealt with that. I mean, there's always bad weather you have to worry about, but it was like an evacuation.
Yeah.
Everyone we do? Were you watching the thing? How far away is the lightning? Like all that. And
And
it was a wild time to go through. I've had it happen since at other festivals, but that's the first time I experienced it.
yeah, well, I mean, man, you can't. It's funny. I heard see three people talk at a conference at one point, and they were just saying they've like, I mean, they said it at Pulsar themselves. They're like, wouldn't be where they were today without like the money that they've like burned along the way and like the failed experiments and like
Worse.
it's all in the process of getting something going
Totally.
sustainable and figuring out your model. Are
And
y'all
that's,
talk? Oh, go ahead, Graham.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I mean, that's booking shows, live music, whether it's fests or shows, it's just like educated gambling. You know enough to not totally roll the dice, but everything is like an assumption that it'll work out, and hopefully things go well. Hopefully weather's not a factor. Hopefully this new record that's coming out isn't a bomb and people don't like this artist anymore. Or someone says something terrible online and, kind of destroys their career, and you're like, oh my God, I have this band. Whatever it is, there's always some risk, but if you're good at what you do, you mitigated that and you have a general understanding of what works and what doesn't, and you're willing to kind of like build off of that and make it work. But there's always losses. Like, you just hope that most of your gains outweigh your losses, and you're getting black eyes left and right. It's definitely not like a win-win by any means.
Wow,
Doing
that's a
shows,
sound bite, Graham.
but it's not a gamble.
Educated gambling. Well, funny. I mean, sometimes in these podcasts, I like, I try to not to make about Prism too much, but whatever. I'm the CEO of Prism, so I got to talk about it a little bit. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's why we're launching Insights is to try and help with like this educating gambling for like a little bit. And you
totally.
hopped on it pretty early. Like, how's that going for you so far? And like, what do you think about it?
It's good. We've been using it. Early but late compared to, I know some other folks did it first, and we kind of watched to see what was happening with it. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Thanks.
I want to keep using it more. We have to kind of remember to use it, like, oh
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
let's click on it and see. But the more people that use it, the more info is being traded. I like it. I had like concepted out something similar years ago. I was on a panel at a ticketing conference, and it just kind of came up naturally on stage. We were like, the Live Nations of the world can share each other's info, and why aren't we indie promoters doing that? We're not competing with each other in every city necessarily. And a couple of the folks on that panel went and like tried to build it. Some of them were from the tech world and ticketing world as well. And it just never quite, I think they all got busy with other things,
yeah,
and it never quite got off the ground. And, the problem before was like, how do you herd these cats? Like, you've got all the
yeah,
independent minded people that all have their own opinion on what they want to share and don't share. And the only way to do it is almost like torrent file sharing with music when you would download years ago, where you're like, you got to leave your hard drive open so people can download your music if you want to download theirs. It's got to be like reciprocal, or people will stop, letting you trade or whatever. Uh, but at the same time, to what degree they will share. I think this has been like a nice middle ground where it's like, okay, knowing the total gross revenue, that's an understandable amount, and getting a ticket price. These are the things that you can put two and two together and get an idea about what this band was paid. But the little nuances of a deal, some people aren't comfortable sharing, or maybe they don't
yeah,
want to have an agent or whatever it is. Like, that's understandable. This gives you like enough insight to be able to get an idea of what an artist has done in certain markets, uh, without diving too deep into someone's settlement sheet and finding every little, piece of info someone might not want to share. So I think it's a good middle ground. It's kind of
thank
balanced,
you.
especially when like the Polestars of the world don't really give you that. You're seeing like either you have to pay a lot for it, or some of the info you're getting isn't exactly what you need. This is like a good medium layer that I think is right for what we personally use it for. Um, and in the end, like, you're just grabbing as much as you can. You're like, how much Spotify listenership monthly? What are their Instagram looks like?
Hmm.
Where are they touring? What are the tour dates? What other venues are they playing? Who are they supporting? Is there something new out? How many people have done this show that I can see in Prism, and see how it's done in general the last year in other markets, or even in this market, and say, okay, all this together, helps you make a decision. And I know there's a lot of people trying to build a tool that just does that automatically, and maybe someday that will exist. But in the meantime, just doing your due diligence, it doesn't take that long. But having a few more, you know, tools to kind of get you the info you need to help make an educated guess, like I was saying, um, is hugely helpful.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think it's yeah. I would not claim it to be a novel idea that us launching insights, but I kind of got to this point where, I mean, early on, there was complaints about other data sharing and like the flaws that they had, and like early on, I'm like, oh, like there might be some at some point, like if we're successful in getting people to put their settlement into Prism, like maybe we can do something. And it was a precious moment to decide to do it, because I think like we had to do it in a way that where people trusted it, and we had to find the right balance of how much do we share versus how much do we not share. If we share too much, people aren't interested in it. If we share too little, it's not
Right.
compelling. And I think the fact that like people are already settling in Prism and they are already hooking up ticketing integrations, so they don't have to do any work to enter it. Like that proved to be A, like it populates the database really effectively, and B, like it's honest too. Like it's not people over-reporting or under-reporting
Yeah.
for like some other reason. It's like
Oh
literally
no.
like anyway. So it's
Yeah,
been a fun
that's
tool
so
for us,
true.
and yeah.
That's so true because like with Polestar, you had to be the one to send it to them, which is weird. It seems like the agent would want to send it, and they would actually send the end of the tour info. But and then also, as you said, some people are trying to like put their thumb on the scale to make their tour look better. Here, it's like these are the numbers, like we put it in,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
probably pretty accurate.
This is what our accounting goes off of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's probably pretty accurate, and it's enough info that you can get an idea of what you're looking for without seeing too deep into people's personal business, and which would be the biggest holdup. And then the one that I was having a hard time wrapping my head around early on, when it was like, how do we get all these indies to do it? Obviously, they have to be using the same ticketing or calendar system, but like so far it seems to be working, and I'm hoping
Cool.
people start doing it.
Yeah, do you think that's like one cool thing too, is because we're not a ticketing company, like we work with all these different ticketing companies, and that way we can like pull in
Yeah,
information from C-tickets or e-tickets or Tixer or whatever. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I like see the revenue that ticketing companies make off of like, the same partners. And I'm like, wow, the ticket fee business is, I hate it, but I also like respect it as like a very, it's hard to like, see that. But at the same time, like our decision to say, all right, we're not going to be a ticketing company has like, and we're just going to be friends of ticketing company has definitely helped get insights going. So at the current moment, like our plan is just to like lean deeper and deeper into that. And like, yeah, again, thank you for coming on when you did. I definitely do think you came on very early. And you and I were talking about this at Neva. Like it's just it needs to happen, because you're right. Like Live Nation has their database, AG has their database, and it's already hard enough, like with all the stuff happening macroeconomically, to you like I don't like that. Like some of our partners are 4 or 5 wrong bets away from being bankrupt. It's like and even with AI, even with perfect data, even with insights times 1,000, and then it connects with social media or whatever, there's never going to be a crystal ball that tells you how much a show will do. So
totally.
I feel like the industry, like my assumption was that the industry just so that this whole thing can stay afloat, like needs to get more comfortable with sharing data. But it definitely takes people like coming in and deciding like, hey, we're going to do things a little bit differently, and we're thankful for y'all for doing that. Yeah,
Totally. No, absolutely. It's a helpful tool. I'm glad you guys are building it and adding to it, and definitely going to keep using it. I dig it a lot. So
love
no,
that.
it helps. I mean, and again, it's for us, we're just trying to gather as much info as we can. And and this is one more tool we get to use.
Yeah, love that. Well, okay, so we jumped over like this is part of the craziness of booking a festival and the risk associated with the festival, but I wanted to jump back over to that. Are y'all talking publicly yet about the like where Levitation is heading? Because I think you've like found a pretty creative solution to like the inclemental weather and stuff, but we don't have to go into it if you're not talking about it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think you interviewed Lee. I feel like he talked more than he probably I would have. But, uh,
Sorry about that.
I definitely texted like, "Hey, I don't think we've announced that yet." But overall, yeah, it's not too different than what we're doing before. But but there's a few changes with it that I think will make it more manageable from a marketing side and a ticket sales side. And then also like just give it more protection and stuff going forward versus like the way it's sort of spread out right now. But that'll be real soon, I think. I wish I had
Cool.
a date on details. Everyone's just so focused on Psych Fest because it's in 2 weeks. And we've got to
Great
get
lineup, by the way. I'm excited for that.
yeah, it should be good. It's a tough week of shows. I was looking like, man, there's a lot going on that week. It's like 5 nights of LCD sound system
Oh
under
my God.
2 nights of Khruangbin underplay like a 5,000 cap, but
Uh-huh.
out. I think who else? St. Fontaine's DC is that weekend. It's just like in a week, it's like everyone. Japanese Breakfast is playing ACL live. It's just like a million shows.
Holy moly.
It's a crazy time for shows. There's Coachella, 2 weekends of Coachella. There's a few festivals in the spring that everyone routes through. So like it's good, but there's always like so much going on in April. And then there's a new festival in Salt Lake in May that we're friends with. It's kind of like the Resound of Salt Lake City. They do a festival called
Cool.
SNS Presents is the group. It's called Kilby. Um,
Cool.
has a lot of those same artists. It's a pretty big event. So yeah, that time in the Southwest is like crazy. It's just like shows every single night at every single level. April and first half of May. It's pretty nuts. But yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, do you think like for something like Psych Fest, like do you think uh a festival happening in Salt Lake regionally like has impact on that? Or is that when you're thinking
Not
about
in a
draw?
negative. It doesn't pull away, but it helps with routing. Like when
Oh,
artists
okay. Yeah.
actually kind of positive, in that a lot of events are happening and bands that may normally not be over in the States or maybe just aren't planning on touring, but like, oh, there's 3 festivals I can hop on and I'll do club plays in between. It makes it easier to get people to commit versus trying to fly someone across the country and then they have 2 days off and it's expensive and it doesn't make sense for them. So, yeah, it usually helps. The downside is that, and this isn't a bad thing, but is that it sends a million bands. If there's a lot of festivals happening, it means like every night of the week there are a million shows. Like October is the busiest time for shows in Austin, but it isn't necessarily the best time for promoters because the clubs are filled with shows, but everyone's selling tickets against the same. There's 10
Mhm.
shows a night, and there aren't enough people to buy tickets that sell at all 10 shows every single night because you got two weekends ACL, and then you've got Levitation at part at one end of that, and then you've got Halloween, you've got I think the F1 race concert is around that time. There's just a lot of
They always pull someone crazy for that
yeah,
too.
they were some mega stars. So like plus you have a million bands touring through because fall's a busy touring season. So yeah, it's funny. It's like when it rains, it pours. So you end up with like a ton of folks routing through around the same time. But
And
overall,
hopefully not pun intended, given our festival
yeah,
discussion about raining and pouring. Yeah.
yeah. Usually do okay, but every once in a while. But
Well, let me throw some fast. You said I think you got like top of the hour, right? We got like 20 minutes or
yeah,
so.
I got
Or
time.
okay,
Yeah,
cool. I'm thinking like we do some fastball questions and like let ourselves jump around. You and I are both are never too afraid to jump around anyway, but let's
yeah,
lean into that even more.
pop it up however.
Okay, here's a fastball question. You have like a really cool kind of like imagery around your brand and like the design and the people who show up to your venue. Like it's a very like I see it as a very like punk rock, like counterculture type. And you said it with Fun Fest. Like, does that just emanate from who you are as a person? Or are you consciously thinking about it with Ian about like, hey, like what type of like aesthetics do we need to have at the venues and does that like go into the creative part of being a promoter and how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a mix. I mean, I definitely come from like a real DIY underground kind of background of my youth and kind of what got me interested in it. And the clubs I booked and festivals I did early on were very much all about like cool, diverse, progressive stuff, not like the obvious mainstream thing. I was always excited about what's new and, what isn't everywhere else. So that's always kind of been the brand is like kind of edgier, left of center stuff. Um, so what we book tends to reflect that. I mean, sometimes we book stuff that's kind of normal, but um, And again, it's a lot of different things. It isn't like a genre, but these days I think it's like things have caught up with us a bit in that uh a challenge of Fun Bum Bum back in the day was that it had so many different things, which was what people loved about it. But it was also like, man, do people even care about this stage? Um, we had to book enough of everything. Uh, where now kids listen to everything. They stream music. They have a much more diverse palette.
Cool.
So anyway, what we book is diverse and there's a lot going on, but it does tend to be like kind of the cooler stuff, rather than the more obvious stuff. Not to put anything down, just that's what excites us, and we think that's what we're kind of offering people, of all sizes. All that said, I do think the brand has to kind of reflect that, and I give Ian a lot of credit on that because he's more the creative director, and his team, like the other designers like Claudia and Kat and other people that work for us, Bird, even with animation and stuff, they're real conscious of that. So how it looks, what we're presenting, kind of giving, which is tough because if you were like a metal promoter. Everything could be skulls and metal. All right. For us, it's like this is like a weird dream pop act, and the next night's a shoegaze thing, and there's this cool hip hop artist, and then there's a punk show the next night, and then another punk show, and then the day after that, there's this electronic guy, and like it's kind of a lot of stuff, right? It's
Do you think
just
there's a thread between all those things?
I do a
What is
hundred.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like and if you meet these folks, a lot of time they're on the same label. Sometimes they share band members. Sometimes they have the
Mm.
same agent. Like there's a lot more similarity in that world, especially the younger version of it, where these kids are kind of all into the same shit. Because when you were a kid, like when we were young, you had to save up money, work, allowance, whatever it was to buy a record. And then you didn't want to take a chance on something that you might not like because then you wasted all your money on something. So you're like, I like hip hop. I'm gonna just buy another hip hop record. You're not like, I think I'll try black metal. Like, why would you try that? Like, that's such yes, you just lost all your money, and you have to 2 weeks later go back and hopefully I can buy another record. So now kids just click on stuff and people send them links and they click on it and oh, I like it. They add it to their playlist. Like, there's some downsides to streaming, obviously, but it's helped the live music business because more people go to shows because more people listen to more bands than ever. Uh, but the kind of things people listen to are at their fingertips. So I think there's definitely a through line when it comes to like the type of artist playing a certain kind of pop or indie or punk or whatever it is. It tends to be like certain kind of artists that are into a thing that we're kind of helping with
Cool.
in the play art club. Sometimes, again, we'll have stuff that might be a bit more obvious, but most of them kind of fall within that same version. Like they'd be sold at the same record store. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I mean, for us, the brand definitely reflects that. Our art, what we try and convey when we're promoting shows. Um, we're even conscious of like certain artists that might not fit that audience as much, that we might promote differently or off of our platform or have
Mm.
one of the venues promote it as like the venue presenting it. Um, just because it's like, oh, that act won't get as much of it out of it if we blast it to our audience and people are like, who's this? Why is this even on here? And it kind of backfires for them, or we give them their own like marketing. We still spend the same money, but we just market it slightly differently. Plus, we don't
Interesting.
water down our audience who's become loyal and it, like follows what we do because they feel like 9 out of 10 times they're going to send me stuff I want. If we start just filling it with anything and everything, here, ticket link, ticket link, ticket link. I think at some point people were like, I'm going to unsubscribe. Like, this is just, I don't even know this is like stuff I don't like. They're like pushing stuff I wouldn't even follow. At this point, it's not, they're not following like the brand anymore. They're kind of just feel like they're just opening a newspaper in the old days and looking through a classified section or something like what this was curated to a degree and it's no longer.
And then it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't want to like water that down, but it's a balance because we also aren't one thing. If you book,
Right.
but
That's an interesting paradox,
yeah,
you know, being
oh,
like really intentional about like it's a wide umbrella you cover, but then like what's in that umbrella and what's not, you know?
it's a balancing act for sure. We debate it occasionally when certain things pop up. They're like, this feels like we should add it to our email and add it to our social post, but is it too off brand and does it not make sense or do we, yeah, it gets debated for sure, but I think we found a pretty good balance over the years, and it kind of helps grow the artists we are working with and keep people coming back that feel like we got them covered. But you're always expanding that brand too. You're always coming up with new things. I mean, what we were booking early on is still probably the core of what we book, but there's definitely a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought we would book that we are booking now. You know what I mean? Like it has
Mm.
expanded as people's tastes have expanded, ours included. Yeah.
That's a segue question that I want to ask. It's actually a two-part question, and the segue is the second part. But the first one is like, 30 plus years, if I'm doing my math right, of being in this, and like, what's the keys to success with that? And like a second follow-up is like, okay, Graham, I'm sure you still have incredible taste, but like, how do you, you're not the same man that you were when you started this thing. Like, how do you stay up to date with like what the kids want to hear, and like, and how do you think about that Resound umbrella like being applicable to what the kids want to hear, and how do you adapt it? So let's definitely do the two part. First thing is just keys to success and being in it over the last 30 years, and then the second part, staying relevant. Yeah.
Uh, Keys to success. I mean, just do what you love. I don't know. I feel like, you do have to balance out the business aspect of it. There are a lot of people who are excited about something who don't know what they're doing, who crash and burn. So you can't just ignore the bottom line by any means. Sometimes these days, running a company, I get stuck on the bottom line stuff sometimes, and you lose some of the creative juices. But I
Oh
have
man,
people who do that, so at least we don't lose that as a core ethos, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, if it's exciting and it's something you want to do and you enjoy what you do, I think that's the first and foremost. I've never taken a job or worked on something based solely on like the dollars. Like it's never been like this. We could make more if I did it this way. That's not to say I won't book an artist and we don't want to make money based on it being successful. But I think our first goal is and probably always will be like, how do we like? Is this something we want to do? Does it make sense? And that's kind of been what I've always done. I kind of feel like if that's there and it's real, you'll enjoy it. But my version of success is probably different than some other folks who are just like looking at a spreadsheet and trying to get that number bigger and bigger, and that is success to them. Um, for me, that really hasn't been the goal. I don't know that it'll ever be the goal for me. But
I love that.
it's a piece of it for sure. Like you can't ignore it. Otherwise,
Mm.
start letting people go and trying to figure out what to do because you weren't paying attention to the dollars and cents of it all. But I do think like if you're focused on like something beyond that as like the basis of what you're trying to create, and you also pay attention to the business side of it, that for me that is success because you have a job you like and you're able to do cool stuff and yeah, that's for me that's always been it. I think
I
it
just flashed back to a show that you guys did at like a haunted, um, like cowboy
Mm. Yeah, an
city.
old yeah.
What was
Yeah,
that?
done that in a while. Yeah, it was like an old West town.
That was so cool.
Yeah, we
Because
used to do
I was just thinking about like, oh yeah, you could have a business doing stuff like that. How cool is that?
yeah, I want to do more of that. We used to do we would rent out an old West town and have a band playing it, or we'd rent out a laser tag place and have like a laser tag
Oh,
test with a DJ, or we would do something on the water, a camping thing with like, yeah, we had a bunch of those on and off. And it's something we've talked about doing more of in the future. Like
cool.
in the summer, like a summer series, like a summer camp type thing where every month or every week is a different like destination event that's like quirky and unique and just fun. It isn't just about the music, it's like music plus the event. But yeah, we used to honestly like I looked at the Alamo Draft House at the time, which is so different now that it's been bought and sold. But at the time they were doing like Jaws on the lake and you floated in an inner tube and watched Jaws and occasionally like a fin would come through, or they would do Goonies in a cave and you'd watch Goonies in a cave and like Corey Feldman would come out and talk or they'd have, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre projected on the side of the house the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was filmed in. Like they would just take a movie that you would see at any point and then show it in like a really fun, quirky location. And this was early days when it was just this local Austin company doing these fun events.
I remember this. Oh,
Yeah, but we were starting to do that kind of stuff. Like we would have Big Frida on a boat and everyone, in their bathing suits having food and drinks out on the river. And, Big Frida's on the top rapping and there's a dance party on a boat, like, out on the lake and everyone's swimming for a couple hours and then drive back to their car or whatever. So I, I definitely would want to do more of that. And I think that kind of being at the heart of what we do, I think keeps employees excited and keeps people following you and helps build the scene because it isn't just shows. That's always going to be the core of what you do is shows and ticketed events. That's never not going to
right.
be our main thing. But yeah, so I think for me, that's a big piece of it. As far as like keeping up with things, I
Yes.
stay focused and, uh, it's a constant, you know, I don't want to say struggle, but it takes work. I mean, but it's fun
Yeah.
work. You have to read all the websites and listen as much as you can. That's a big part of it, not getting stuck in like listening to what you're familiar with. That's kind of what
Mm.
people my age in their 40s and above are doing because at some point work and family becomes so when you for a ticket buyer, you've got young people who go out and see shows and they're pretty open-minded. Then you've got like college kids and just after maybe after college you got a good job but you still go see music. Once people get a little bit older, their careers become such a big focus. They have kids, they have a family, they don't have as much free time. They stop finding out about new bands a lot. It's getting better with streaming because people can find out about new bands pretty easily now. So there are older people finding out about younger stuff that would have never before. But still, overall, the bulk of the people who go out a lot tend to lean a little bit younger. The people who go out not as often tend to be a little bit older. And those people tend to listen to what they listen to in college. Like the thing that the playlist they have, the bands that they love, they still listen to those. Occasionally they'll find something new, but they don't have a lot of free time to discover new bands, new music. It's just the nature of the beast. It's how we all live. So, um, I try and not get sucked into that because I don't work in that world.
Neuroplasticity, you know?
Yeah, you have to but I think the biggest factor is that we employ a lot of young, cool people who like cool stuff. Like, so a lot of our staff, especially our interns, but also a lot of the staff who were interns who worked their way up or just people who've come in, a lot of them are pretty open-minded. And
Hmm.
we have like on our Slack channel, we have a new music channel where everyone's allowed just constantly posting new songs. Check this out. So and so dropped this song. Like, it's just a constant conversation. And I think being around folks like that, it just keeps that dialogue going. And then third, I would say I have to give credit more to the booking agents and managers and labels who there are counterparts that the other half of
Yeah.
the business. They're doing the same thing we're doing. Like they're trying to find new music. They have young assistants and other agents and people at their labels that are bringing new ideas and bringing bands to the table that they think are really cool. So often we trust them, like people we've worked with for years will be like, I have this new artist. It's really cool. And they'll send us stuff. So it's kind of a lot of people are doing the same thing. If you're looking at a website and learning about an act, you know, those people's teams, their manager, their agent, their label, they're kind of the same folks we are on the other side of it. And we're all kind of communicating about these acts as they come up. So there are promoters and festivals that are like specifically in that legacy lane. Like there's a couple venues in Austin that are only booking like older stuff, like 90s and before. Like that's what they focus on and they have an audience for it and that's what they do. But we're not in that world. So we're all about classic acts when they make sense, particularly if they're like cool acts that kind of remained in that world. But it's a big part of what we do is like new talent.
It's an
And
interesting question about like how much you're trying to grow with your current base and cater to them, or are you doing shows for your older base and then doing shows for your younger base, or do you hope to like find the acts that can like bridge the gap, or maybe
yeah,
everything, you know?
it's kind of everything. I mean, the older acts we tend to book don't tend to be like some people call it like casino bookings. Like, when you look at
Yeah.
like, like, oh, a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire, like
Yeah.
stuff only does casinos that don't actually tour. we don't really do that. When we're doing an older act, it might be like Dinosaur Jr. or something like that, like still pretty cool stuff, just um artists that are older and
Yeah.
decades, but are still like doing really cool music or playing really cool songs. And it tends to overlap a little bit. And then when it comes
Like,
to younger stuff, it's anything. And that's honestly the biggest dice roll. You never know. Like, is this buzzy act on TikTok a thing, or is it just
right.
flash in the pan and a month later no one's going to know? You're kind of like, giving it a shot. And then of course in the middle you've got acts that have a record or two out that have been touring a couple of times and have kind of established themselves and have a bit of an audience, and hopefully you're growing with them, and sometimes on the way down, like artists that really peak and then kind of drop back down and we work with later. um but it's a diverse enough group uh on our end and fans, and that we can do a lot of different things. And the venues we book, some of them are big enough that you can't get too pigeonholed in one thing, or it's not good for business. If you're, I always say there's no 2000 cap jazz club. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
the bigger you get, the less precious you can be about it. You can, if you're 99,
Yeah.
you can do some really neat stuff, because there's always 99 people that can fill your little room,
It's
no
a
matter.
fascinating point.
The
Yeah.
bigger it gets, there aren't enough artists of a particular genre to keep that full. Um, and you kind of gotta, spread out what you do and do a lot of different things. But that can still be within a certain umbrella, under a certain umbrella, like we talked about. Uh, but yeah, I think that's kind of another reason we've always kind of tried to keep it somewhat diverse and open, is that we've, a lot of the rooms I've had are big enough that we can't just rely on one thing. But personally, I just didn't believe it should be any one thing. I felt like there's a lot of different things out there, and that should be the goal, is to.
Dude, fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Well, here's a self-serving question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What's it like? Let's go full circle now. So you started off Google, not Google Calendar. You started off uh, paper calendar, whiteout. What's it like going from that to Prism's calendar and offers and emailing offers from Prism and instead of like faxing offers and getting the fax back confirmed? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's night and day. I couldn't go backwards, that's for sure. I always say, if like you had to start doing phone calls and handwriting contracts, I would quit for sure. Um, but yeah, it's interesting because I did it the old school way in the beginning. Then when I first started booking, using an actual booking account, it was just a Google Calendar, which still exists. It's exactly the same now as it was, you know, 15 years ago when I was emailing bands and typing it in a calendar. Um, that was probably like mid aughts, like 2004 or something like that, probably. Um, at some point we worked with a company that's now gone. Moody, who owns Mohawk, he was partners in. We helped develop, called Q, which was a small ticketing company that just did Fun Fun
Oh
Fun.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Fun Fun, Mohawk, and a club in Sacramento where their office was based. And they built it around us, but we were like, hey, can you build us a booking calendar? Um, so we advised, Rosa in particular on our team advised how this is what it would look like. And um, we were using it. And then at the time, Empire started using it, one of your former partners was a partner there, Steven.
Yep.
They weren't happy with it. We were fine with it at the time, but I think they were frustrated because it was like, their company got bought by Eventbrite, who ended up buying Ticketfly.
Hmm.
So calendar, we had like a list of things they were going to add to it. They're going offers, all these things that we were someday going to have, was on the to-do list. Once these companies all merged and bought each other, they were like, this is on the back burner. Like,
Yeah.
there's like three people using this calendar. There's no reason to do all these updates. We got to put our tech team on 10 other things, including merging Ticketfly with Eventbrite, two giant ticket companies. So we were, at least the way that I had heard it was, heard presents Empire's frustration. They teamed up with you, and
Yep.
they were like, this
Yeah.
calendar, why don't we just build our own? Like, these guys are dumping it. So y'all took the calendar. We're like, let's make our version of this, but actually do all these things on what we want to do. And at first, we actually were kind of late to Prism because we still had access to Q, a free calendar, and it did most of what we needed. And we were hopeful that their team that had built it, who were great. They were all awesome engineers and really great people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They would get the calendar back and get back to work on it. But it became apparent after a year or so that like they had all been tasked with new roles and they were probably going to sunset this thing because those two companies had merged. And if everyone was using it, they would have been like, "Whoa, all the customers need it," but no one was except for us because it was they bought Q, which was a little tiny company with only
Totally.
people. So if Ticketfly had been using whoever, if they had built their own version of it, and they did years ago, that didn't work.
Yeah. Ticket flight promoter. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was good, and like, and I remember it being talked about internally there that like they're like, "Oh, we have this calendar, we should use it." And I heard Andrew Dresden over there was like, "No one wants a calendar." Now we tried it at Ticketfly, no one will use it. No one liked it. I was like, "Well, you built a shitty calendar. It wasn't the calendar.
Right.
I want a
You got to
calendar.
distinguish
The
between
one
those
they
two
built,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't work." Trust me, people want it. You just got to build one. So see value in the queue, and they just gotta let it rot. And we were like, "Well, it's not doing any of the stuff we want." And by then, Prism was so new at the beginning, but y'all had now passed queue and finally added all the stuff that was on like the to-do list after you did it. So we were like, "All right, let's switch over." They're doing other things that these guys are not going to do, and it was good timing because eventually, Eventbrite with COVID happened a year later, and they let everyone go anyway. So
Totally. Yeah.
they would have that thing would have gotten destroyed anyway. So, so we were a little late. Like in Austin, there were already other people using it, and we were kind of looking at it from afar, like wondering if our digital calendar would finally get used. So, when you guys got it all done, it was really exciting because we were able to. Rosa was the pickiest because she helped design the Q one when it got
Totally.
rolled.
She's been great for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she started meeting with you guys once a month and like just going over ideas and was just like, this is great because it's got all the things that Q was missing and it's adding, and it has in the queue, no pun intended, a bunch of stuff that they are going to add, which are the things that we are hoping they will add eventually anyway. So once we signed up, it felt like we were able to move forward and get a bunch of stuff done that we had been we were still using, we couldn't send offers. So we were still using a separate offer sheet. There was no Dropbox. Well, maybe there's a Dropbox function, but there was a lot of things we were doing in like multiple screens, and to bring it all together was like super convenient. It really made things easy. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was really
it's been an evolution just getting it right. And like, we just launched like the CoPro thing recently, which I know
yeah,
was something that we talked early on. And like,
yeah,
man, like I totally get why no one had done it before. Cause it's like one thing to say, oh, let's put a calendar together with an offer system. But, Ticketfly had tried it and there was Q and it's like, it's been a 8-year roadmap getting Prism to where it is today. Like, the devil is in the details with making concert offers and settlements work along with financial reporting for sure. But anyway, y'all have been great partners. So appreciate
yeah. I
that.
mean, honestly, like the biggest challenge for you guys, I would imagine, is that when you have a few people they all have a similar idea. You're like, okay, cool. But when you have
Yes.
then you like a promoter that goes into multiple venues needs something different than a venue that just uses the calendar for their thing. And then someone who maybe wants bar stuff in there, like a toast version of it, where you can actually. Then there's people who are like, I just do a festival. I want to like. Everyone's got a different need. And you're like, how do we do something that everyone can use, or how do
Yes.
thing. And then like some things are like, this is a cool idea, but only two people out of 500 need this thing.
Yep.
And 100 people need it. It makes sense, but two people where if we do something that takes a month, 2 months to build for two people, and 100 people didn't get a thing they needed because we bumped them to the back of the line, that's not fair either. So it's
This
like,
is our job. This is
yeah,
it. Like discerning
constant
from like
challenge.
I call it an infinite room. Like if you take if you take all the feedback from everyone, there's an infinite amount of things that we can do. But like, what do we do? But that we could do, but we're in reality. We can't do an infinite number of things. We can only do a finite number of things. So like, what do we pick? And I,
Totally.
I would say like the different use cases, definitely there's like a ton of cross pollination. Surprisingly, like, CoPro has been helpful for small clubs to folks like you, all the way to like, some of the arenas that we work with. So we're always trying to find those features that like thread, to use your paradox. Like if there's something that threads like all the different genres you do, like there's definitely features out there with Prism that like have the biggest impact with the most amount of people. So obviously those get stacked a little bit higher, and it's a very complex formula that's like part art, part science about like what we choose to put forward and don't. But like That's our
Yeah.
like bread and butter right there is making, yeah, the choices we've made over the last 8 years, of the little thousands of little details. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. No, we've been happy with it. The CoPro thing, I haven't used it yet. But we're starting, I guess it was just a couple weeks ago, but we're going to start, and we were just looking at that.
Cool.
Yeah, can get real messy, when you've got, all these different things you need to pull in, and making it simple, I think will help. And I'm sure there'll be some kinks to work out like anything, but for the most part, I'm stoked to dive into that too, because we do
Cool.
pros and we invite a lot of promoters into our venues, and just to have something where we don't have to like retroactively or try and fix it and after the fact, and or make a separate sheet is changed things a lot for sure.
Yeah, when I first looked at the whole CoPro thing, I was like, okay, so there's settlement with the artist, settlement internally, and then settlement with your CoPro partner. But then there's two layers of settlement. There's like how much did each partner net? And
Right.
then on top of that, how much do you have to pay them based off of how much you collected and how much you spent? Yeah, it's like we're like
Yeah, there's a lot of layers, and sometimes it's like a fake pro, sometimes they're not great pro. Sometimes this person's getting a buck of ticket. Sometimes one party's doing all the ad buys, all the marketing, and other people are just bringing the show. So it's like to be able to move things around. That would have been a hard one to build, but I'm
on
glad.
day one for sure. Yeah. I'm glad we waited so that we could get the rest of the infrastructure set up because it came out relatively simple. I'm excited to get your feedback. All right, here's one more fastball question. I've been wondering this the whole episode. What is going on with your t-shirt? I'm seeing like some Hebrew and like what is this?
Never seen this movie?
No, and there's a Native American wearing a Hebrew headband. What so
Well,
I guess I
technically, he's a Jewish Indian tribe.
what?
So you'll have to see the movie. It's of its time. I warn you ahead of time.
Okay.
Uh, It's one of those movies that people whine and say it couldn't get made today. It's like it shouldn't get made today. It was a different time. But Mel Brooks, this writer and
Of
comedian,
course. Yeah, yeah.
it's one of his greatest movies. That's Mel Brooks in the Jewish Native American. There's a whole scene with Mel Brooks in it. But anyway, he made this movie. It was actually him and Richard Pryor were writing it in the 70s. And Richard Pryor was going to play a black sheriff during like the racist Deep South. It was a Western. Um who I think the concept was uh this railroad wants to like run through this small town and destroy this town, right? And the governor who's trying to make it happen is like,
Classic story.
yeah, how do we get rid of the people in this town? They need a new sheriff. So they like choose to elect a black sheriff because this racist town will be like, we're not having it, and all want to move out. And when they move, they can then demolish the town and run the railroad through it. Um, so it's like a whole thing about race. And him and Richard Pryor were doing it together. Richard Pryor had a bunch of drug problems at the time, so he was all over the press, so the studio wouldn't allow him to be in it. So Mel Brooks wasn't going to make it without him. And then Richard Pryor was like, you know what? I'll write it with you. I'll stay on as writer, and we'll make it, and we'll hire someone else to do my part. And so it was him and Gene Wilder. So Richard
Oh my God.
Wilder were always in movies together. Like they always were like this buddy cop. They did all these like three or four films where they were like it was like a buddy movie, but with those two guys. But this would have been the first one, and they couldn't be in it together because of this. How the studio wouldn't allow Richard Pryor in it. They were given like threatening to pull the funding. So this other guy's in it who's great, and it's super funny. And yeah, anyway, it's a Mel Brooks classic. It's a spoof on Hollywood and like racism in Hollywood and small town America and all this stuff. But
Outstanding. It's on my list now, and the warning received that it's not from the time. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
movies like that.
it
But
was
man,
pretty wild when it comes to language and all that stuff. But I mean, it's also Richard Pryor and Mel Brooks's movie, so it's like even from their point of view, it's a satire on our American culture. But yeah, it's super funny.
incredible, incredible. Well, Graham, I think you like really embody the Austin spirit, and I mean, I've only been here for 12 years, but like I think Austin has such an interesting culture, and it's also hard to put your finger on exactly what that is. And I think you both embody the Austin spirit, and also like I hope you receive this compliment that I actually do believe that you are part of creating like the Austin culture, and like really appreciate you, man. And like the
Thanks,
like getting
man.
to as a partner now with Prism, but like also just getting to enjoy your events throughout the years. It's been amazing, man. Keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. Thanks for your help on that as well. Like, it takes a big team of people doing the kind of stuff we do in music to make it all run. So we appreciate what you've been doing as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We'll keep at it. Just, I guess a slight obsession of like getting it right is like the only way to make it happen. But anyway, isn't
Sure.
that for all of us, huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah, I'm
thanks,
gonna.
man. Good.
What's
I'll
that? Yeah, yeah,
thanks for doing this. I'll probably see you. We're in the same office complex now, our new office. So
yeah, yeah. I could throw a
at the
bouncy ball on the roof and hit you.
and let's do it. I'll see you at the food trailer area next time.
Yes, let's do it. We'll get a taco soon.
Sounds good, man.
All right, man.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Yep.
You too.